Hey everyone, welcome to Pai's Kitchen. Now hands up if anyone has ever used one of these. Now if you don't know what this is a Japanese curry sauce mix. Sort of like a curry paste basically, and you add meat, vegetables, water, and there you have a Japanese curry. Now I used to love this, I still do, and I use this all the time until one day recently it occurred to me, wait a minute, what is actually in this thing, and could I actually just make it all from scratch? And it turns out that I can, and it's not that hard. It's only a little bit more work in prepping a few ingredients, but the rest is pretty much the same. So I'm super excited to share it with you because then you can actually make it to suit your taste exactly. So let's get started. You can use whatever kind of meat you want. If you want to use meat, you can also do this with tofu or with no protein at all, okay? So I'm using beef because I love the flavor of beef with this, and I'm using chuck, which is the best cut for stew. It cooks out to be nice and tender and flavorful. I'm gonna just salt it a little bit so that the beef has some flavor inside. With the other ingredients, I've got here apple puree. Now I know the color does not look anything like an apple puree, but when you puree an apple, it oxidizes really quickly, so it just turns really brown. But it's actually quite common to use apples as a sweetener in Japanese cuisine. For curry powder, now for this recipe, you can use whatever kind of curry powder that you have that you like. However, if you want to get the flavor as close to the Japanese curry blocks as possible, you might want to look for Japanese curry powder. S&B brand is pretty classic. So the secret ingredient, not that secret, is tomato paste. And this is not going to make the curry taste tomatoey at all. But what it will do is give a rich umami lift because tomato paste is packed full of natural glutamates, which is what MSG is, so don't skip it. This makes a big difference, all right? Now for seasoning, I am using here Japanese soy sauce, okay? And Japanese soy sauce does taste different from Thai, Chinese, or Korean soy sauces, so you can get one of these. They come in small bottles, so you don't have to buy a big one, or you can just collect those sushi soy sauce packets until you've got enough. Okay, the next ingredient, the next seasoning is Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire sauce, however you say it, it's such a difficult word. And it's a vinegary sauce that really brightens the flavor of this curry. I would say you could probably get away with skipping it if you don't want to buy a whole bottle and then never use it again. But if you've got one in your fridge already, definitely a nice addition. Okay, so I'm going to start by browning the beef, because browning is flavor, and you're gonna wanna brown the beef anyway, even if you're using the curry blocks, and it doesn't tell you to do that in the package instructions, but trust me, it makes a difference. If you don't hear the sizzle, it's not hot enough, and you don't wanna crowd the pot. Now, if you're feeling hardcore, you can, go and flip them all and get all 6 sides brown, but I only have enough patience for about 2 to 3 sides, then I'm like, all right, that's enough. All right, so that's done. Now I'm going to keep that pot because all that brown stuff in the pot is flavor. And I'm going to add onions, garlic, and ginger. And we're just gonna saute it until they become soft and translucent. So once things are softened up, I'm gonna add the tomato paste. Now I like to cook my tomato paste in some high heat before I add any liquid, because there's this tinny metallic flavor in tomato paste that seems to go away if you saute it, and it also almost sweetens the tomato paste a little bit. It just makes it so much better. I'm gonna add my curry powder. So give the curry powder just about a minute to toast, to bloom all the flavor of the spices. If it's getting a little dry, you can add a little bit of oil to help lubricate. And at this point, just watch your heat because powdered spices can burn quite easily. I can really smell it in the air now. I'm gonna go in with my liquid, which is beef stock. Now, I am actually using store-bought beef stock for this because store-bought stock has a nice brown color because they make a brown stock, and it's a lot of work to make a brown beef stock at home. But make sure that when you buy it, it is unsalted. Not low sodium, not 30% less salt, unsalted. You want all the salt to come from the soy sauce, which will add more flavor. Okay, if you use salted stock now, you won't be able to add hardly any soy sauce before it becomes too salty. The apple puree goes in, so this is our sweetening agent, and also it'll help thicken the sauce. Now all my seasoning is also gonna go in at this point, and then the beef goes back in. Now I'm gonna let this simmer and stew now for 2 hours before I add my vegetables. If you're using chicken or pork, it's not gonna take as long, and I'll include all the details in the written recipe. In the meantime, we'll be right back. So at this point, the beef has been simmering for about 2 hours. It is almost at the point where it's fork tender, okay? We're gonna add some vegetables to it. Classically, it's always carrots and potatoes. I prefer russet potato, which is a starchy potato, which cooks up to be sort of creamy, right? If you use a new potato or a red skin potato, it's gonna be a little firmer, and I find in stews, it doesn't absorb flavor quite as well, and I really like that creamy texture. Now this just has to cook for another half an hour. It's looking a little thin, so what we're gonna do is make a roux to help thicken it. So a roux is a classic French method of thickening a soup or stew or a sauce. In fact, a lot of people call this stuff a curry roux, like curry flavored roux, because there is flour in here that helps thicken your curry. But it's really easy to make. It's just flour and butter, okay? So I'm gonna just melt some butter in here, and it's unsalted. Now, if you're feeling lazy and you don't wanna make a roux, you can just make a flour slurry and add it to your curry and thicken it that way. However, making a roux will add extra flavor. So once the butter is all melted, I'm gonna add in the flour, and this is just all-purpose flour, and that's it. That's the roux. Now you want to cook this though, so that the flour no longer has that raw flour taste. So give it a few minutes. You can leave it like this, and it's called a white roux. Make it a little more dark. This is called a blonde roux, and it adds a little extra flavor. Some people push it really dark and they make a brown roux, which adds even more flavor. Okay, so it's starting to darken a little bit, so I'm happy with that. I can smell the nuttiness. I'm gonna turn off the heat, and now this can just sit until we're ready to use it. So the potatoes are cooked and soft and tender and creamy. And when you weren't looking, I stirred in some peas because, you know, I like pops of green in my food and I love peas. So you don't have to do it though. Now at this point, I do want to thicken my curry a little bit. See how it's thickened, but it's still a little runny. Now you don't have to add all the roux, okay? So it completely depends on how thick you want it. So I'm gonna start with just about half and see where we're at. And because the flour is coated in the butter, it won't clump. So you want to stir that in, and you bring it to a simmer so that the roux has a chance to work. And I love it when the potatoes start to lose their edges because they're getting a little bit mushy. That's perfect. And now taste and adjust. I think I'm gonna add a little more soy sauce, but then I think we're good to go. So always serve this with rice, and of course I've got Japanese rice in my plate here. Oh, Because this is quite rich, the Japanese like to serve a little bit of pickles to go along with it. And the classic pickle that gets served with curry rice is something called fuku jinzuke. It's a mixture of different vegetables. So there's radishes, lotus root, a bunch of stuff in there, and it's red because of shiso leaves. However, not all of it is red. I've had some where it's sort of a yellowish, and those work as well. So it's just sort of up to you. It's widely available at Japanese grocery stores. They've got tons of pickles to choose from. And the red one's a nice color contrast as well. Look how cute that is! Let's dig in. Oh, that beef is so tender. I have to say, as much as I love my curry block, this just takes it to a whole nother level. It's really hard to describe, but there's something about it that tastes fresh. You eat that and you know it was made from scratch, so that it didn't come from a pre-made box. And you just feel so proud of it. You know, you just love this so much more when you know you made it. And that flavor, there's no other curry box that can replicate the flavor of home-cooked meal. So I hope you give this a try. It's so, so good. The recipe will be on hotthaikitchen.com. And when you make it, please send me a photo on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And I'm also now on Snapchat, so follow me on Snapchat. And subscribe to the show if you haven't done so. And I will see you next time for your next delicious adventure. You can use whatever kind you want: chicken, beef, pork, shrimp, elk, moose, alligator, squirrels, rabbits, tofu, meatballs, tofurkey. Have I covered everything?
Emus.